Hi, Ben here from TaylorMade Designs. In today's video, it's probably one that we really shouldn't have to make, but we're going to anyway. Occasionally, we receive a phone call or an email from a customer saying that our price is way off, massively off. 10, 20 quid here and there. It's down to interpretation. Each designer does things slightly differently. But when it's a huge amount out, there's something amiss. So if the customer's so willing as to share the opposition's design with us, then we can have a little look through. And really it goes back to the old sort of adage that if something's too good to be true, it probably is. Now, what we've noticed with some of these overly cheap quotations is a lot of the items that you're going to need has been missed out entirely to make it a cheaper quote. So we're just going to pop into the yard now so I can show you some of the items that you can expect to see included in your quotation. So here we've laid out a few typical items that you're going to need with your roof. Pretty much always some of the items, optional some of the others, the same with the floor over here. So let's start with our bracing timbers. Very much an essential part of just about any roof that you'd ever put up or buy. They stabilise the trusses and make sure that it all works as a cohesive single roof. Gable ladders, you may or may not want these. It depends what type of verge detail you've got. You could have a dry verge, wet verge, corbelled eaves, the list goes on. But if you need them, we'll sell them to you, not a problem at all. Truss clips, again, truss metal work, you're going to need some of that. You want to fix your trusses to the wall plates, that type of thing. Straps, still part of truss metal work. Now what we found over the years is that builders do seem to have a shed full of these things. So we won't include these in your quote as standard, but if you need them, let us know and we'll sort you out, not a problem at all. Infill timbers, so you may have a roof that requires infill timbers. Make sure that if it requires it, you've got them on the quotation. That should be, a good quote should identify what each individual element is and what it's doing. So you should be covered there, but something to look out for. So we'll have a look at our joists then. A typical package for joists would be, again, bracing timbers, only for joists over 4 metres in length, and that's an internal length. So inside of support to inside of support, over 4 metres, you're going to need some of this. You'll pretty much always need noggins and clips, again, part of the stability of the joists, and you're going to need these to put your non-load bearing partitions over if they run at 90 degrees to your joists. So all of these are part of that sort of essential pack. Again, metal work as required. A lot of people build their joists into the wall. If you need metal work, masonry hangers, timber to timber hangers for joists, we can include that for you. Straps, we do include the straps with our joist quotes, simply because actually, again, we find over the years, or have found over the years, that not everyone has a shed full of those when they're putting a floor up. So reasons why we do include for some and not for others. But these are the things that you really would expect to see in a comprehensive quotation. And anything less really is like going into a shoe shop and coming out with only one shoe. Afternoon. All right. Oh wow. Well, these are exactly what I've been looking for. Oh, and the right size as well. How much?
Tenner.
Tenner. Done. Anyone else that?
Marvellous.
Right. Let's be having this. Only one? Oh, for these so-called too good to be true quotations, there's a few things that you really do need to look out for. Let's use an attic truss as an example. So an attic truss, you are quite likely to have infill timbers. You might want to create your stair opening. Could be external, but likely it's going to be internal. Dormer roofs, Velux windows. They're typically the things that you're going to want infill for in an attic configuration. Infill timbers, loosely supplied to site in 5.4 metre lengths such as these. And the big one for me is dormers. For some reason, not everyone would include dormer material. You're going to want it. You don't want to get wet if it rains when you're in your attic bedroom. So I don't understand why, but people don't. So it is important that you identify exactly the material that you're getting and for where it's going. For example, our quotations include a stick of timber and it'll say rafter next to it. We'll include another stick of timber, you'll see it in the quote all itemised down. That'll say collar for the attic ceiling, it might say floor joist, floor binder, trimmer. You get the idea, it's all there. At TaylorMade we do pride ourselves on compiling a very comprehensive quotation. We think about what we're including, we think about what the customer wants. If for whatever reason there's an omitted item, we will tell the customer that that's been omitted, and then it's up to them to say that they'll get it elsewhere. They might want us to price for it anyway, but we will always let the customer know. Truss metal work. Again, most people probably will provide you what you need in this regard, but it's very important to check anyway. Always check the inclusions and the exclusions as to what you're getting. As we said earlier, we don't tend to supply straps with our truss jobs, but if you do need them, if your builder happens to not have a shed full of things, let us know and we'll absolutely supply them for you or quote them for you. So again, just things to look out for. Truss clips, very standard, you're going to need those. Framing anchors for any multiple trusses, general things like that, sort of hangers for infill, for your trimming, as mentioned just a few moments ago. Little bits like that, again, very important just to make sure that you are in fact getting it. I've seen quotes before now where they've actually not included for any metal work. You need it, you need to buy it. Let's put it together in a single package. As mentioned earlier with floor joists, particularly here, noggins and clips. It's very unlikely that you're going to have a floor that you're going to install that won't use these. So you need them, we'll stick them in the package. And lastly, we come to our bracing. So again, a physical material that you can expect to see on your quotation. This is truss bracing. Other forms of bracing are required for floors over 4 meters in length for the joist. But this is truss bracing. Again, it's very, very unlikely that you'll ever put a set of trusses up that don't require the bracing. It's stability bracing as opposed to wind bracing. Very clear difference between the two. This will keep your trusses stable. The bracing then abuts up to your gable walls if it's a gable configuration, and then it acts as an entire structure then. The trusses through to the walls, down to foundation. While we're on the subject of talking about things that you may not have that you need, there's things that you might not necessarily really notice. It's not a physical item that you're going to be looking out for on the quotation. This is more in the design itself. So we've got two examples here of exactly the same project. One that we've done over here on the right, and a competitor's layout just here on the left. And you can probably see straight away that actually our joists, shown in yellow here, are considerably wider actually than our competitors, shown there on either flank. Now, what the reason for that is that there's a screed load that we've applied to our joist. It's actually something that the customer had shown on their sections. Now, screed is quite heavy, so we've allowed for that load on our design, and therefore wider joists. Our competitor hasn't, and of course their joist is simply going to be substandard. They're not going to be man enough to perform as the customer requires, using the materials that the customer requires to put on them. And another thing, again, something that you wouldn't necessarily see straight away because it isn't a physical item, is treatment. This job was actually within an area deemed to be at risk of the house longhorn beetle.
Is someone eating the house?
They love eating timber that hasn't been treated. So we needed to treat our timbers. Again, the customer hadn't. So, I mean, the differences here culminated in £3,000 per plot difference. This is one plot, this is plot one. There's another plot on this site. So that was £6,000 the difference. Now, after talking to the customer, explaining what these differences were, we've got the order. So brilliant news, we've got the order. We've done it right. Our competitor, let's just say, didn't quite do it right. And after explaining that with the customer, yeah, we've got the order, everything's well. But that's if we get the opportunity to explain such things. Another thing I wanted to bring to your attention is attic trusses, my favourite. Our competitor's quotation here, they're showing the customer what he's getting. So on paper, there'd be no difference. If you were looking at the plan, it would look like a truss. If you were looking at the quotation, it would say span, possibly height and pitch. So that it's quite tricky to actually determine easily that these aren't the same. But 5.6 metre room on this one. That's good, it's a good room. It's not what the customer wanted. Here's what the customer wanted. This is 7.7 metres over. That's a big room. That's a bigger room. That's what the customer wanted. And can you see these eaves? These eaves are completely different. So again, even though this truss compared to this truss would read exactly the same on a quotation, when you look into it, in fact, they are two completely different animals. One is going to give the customer what he wants. The other is going to give the customer a cheaper price, but it doesn't really necessarily reflect his requirements. So I'm going to sign off now for fear that I might get lynched overnight. So The purpose of this video really was just to highlight some of the pitfalls, some of the dangers, I suppose, that people might encounter, and some of the reasons why you just might not end up getting what you want, what you asked for, what the architect had drawn up, what you'd spend money getting the architect to draw up. So I guess what I'm saying is, be careful. Worst case scenario, pick up the phone, we'll have a chat with you, we'll go through, and we'll make sure that you're fully conversant with what we're offering you in the quotation.